Unaccustomed as I am in public speaking, well, TK, we all wish you the best, and certainly as Governor of the State of Indiana, I want to give you our thanks on behalf of all the people of the State of Indiana. What you've done in education, advocates for young people, make sure that they can attend a college that will benefit them, keep them here in Indiana, but more importantly, to be a leader in higher education throughout Indiana. We'll miss you, and we thank you for doing a great job for this state.
Well, unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, I'll try to keep this simple. TK was my first client when I joined TPMA 5 years ago, and so I mainly want to thank you, TK, for the opportunities that your friendship has led to for me, for what you've done for TPMA, and most importantly, I think, for what you've done for education in the state of Indiana. You've done a great job. I hope you enjoy your retirement, and having the time to enjoy that and your family couldn't happen to a person who deserved it more. Thanks, TK.
Very nice to meet you.
Sorry, I'm Dan Henkel.
Hi.
Goodness, it's good to see you, sir. Yes. This is my wife, Joyce. Where do you all live? Do you all live? She lives in Georgia. She lives in Oregon. He lives in Arizona. We are a poster child family. Are you going back west? We're going to stay here for a year.
Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, I wanted to say a brief word to you, TK. We have appreciated your leadership very much. We are grateful that you invested 10 years of your life in helping the private colleges of Indiana move forward, and I'm convinced that you have left the organization much stronger than it was when you came, and I personally appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking and politicking on behalf of higher education, TK, I did want to take this opportunity to indicate how good a friend we at Calumet College of St. Joseph know you to be. Over the years, and I actually predate you by a few years, but over the years that you've been with ICI, you have always been responsive. You've been a great friend. You've told me when we have been wrong, which I have appreciated. I've appreciated your candor, your insight, and I would really like to use you as a consultant sometime in the future. So after you've vacationed for a while, vacationed with the ultimate promotion known as retirement, I look forward to talking with you again. Best wishes.
Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, I want to pay tribute to TK Olson for his dedicated service to independent higher education in Indiana and throughout his career in the United States. TK is one of a kind who we will miss greatly, but hope that he'll stay deeply involved with us as we go forward with the cause that he's been such an important spokesperson and thinker for. TK's strength of mind and character, ethical standards, and communication abilities have served all of the independent colleges in higher education in Indiana to the very best way possible, and we will miss him greatly, but he's done a lot and will be remembered for a very long time for all his contributions. It's a pleasure to be with him this evening.
Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, I'm pleased to be here tonight to honor TK on the occasion of his retirement. I need to say that I'm not a native Hoosier, and when I first came to the state of Indiana and came to my first meeting in Indianapolis, the first person I met was TK Olson. I saw his tie. I couldn't help but notice the clock on his string tie, and I thought, I'm going to get used to this Hoosier culture, till I realized that TK was also a transplant here. But we've grown to love him. Indiana's grown to love him. He's done a great job for the independent colleges of Indiana. Have a happy retirement, TK.
TK, unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, nonetheless, what I'd like to say to you is what a pleasure it's been to work with you for the last 3.5 years. You know that I'm just new to the state of Indiana then, back in 1998, Seems like only yesterday in some ways and a long time ago in other ways. You were a very nice introduction to the Hoosier mentality and to what private colleges can accomplish in the state of Indiana. I don't know of anybody who could have been more of a champion for what private education is all about. I knew that whenever we had some thorny issue at the legislature, we could count on you to carry us through, to keep us informed, and to tell us what we ought to be doing and saying to our legislators. So TK, let me tell you, you will be missed. You've been a marvelous support to me and to all of the presidents in the independent colleges of Indiana. Thanks a lot. Best wishes and Godspeed.
TK, Mary Lou Eldred from St. Mary's, Notre Dame. Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, I want to wish you all the best. Thank you for everything you've done for the private colleges in Indiana. I consider it a real privilege to have gotten to know you and worked with you during these last few years, and I'm sure that your retirement will be every bit as energetic and vital and fun as has been your time with the private colleges. Thank you for everything.
Unaccustomed as we are to public speaking seems to be the theme for the evening. But I won't tell you how unusual this is to see the former leader of Franklin College with the present leader of Hanover.
Well, my admiration for you grows every year.
Oh.
And TK, to you, we thank you for all you've done for us. You have helped us understand that even Bill Martin can be a success.
You know, that's the honest to God truth. TK is a very unusual human being, both with his brilliance and his sense of humor. He came into an institution that was, shall we say, moribund, and he turned it into a living entity, and he merits the praise of all of us.
If only TK had a vocabulary that was adequate. We're sorry, TK, your vocabulary is limited, your sense of humor is lacking, but we wish you well, and thank you for enduring the two of us together.
Absolute ditto.
Congratulations, TK.
Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, I would take just this word, TK, to express thanks for all you've done for our association. And finally, I guess what I hope the most is that in your years with us, you've had a lot of fun because you've given us great service and you've provided a lot of fun. Thank you.
Unaccustomed to public speaking as I am, nonetheless, TK, it's a delight to extend congratulations to you upon your retirement, to say thank you for the marvelous leadership that you brought to the independent colleges in Indiana, and for the fact that you raised elocution to a new level among independent colleges. Thank you, and Godspeed.
Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, I want to take this occasion to wish TK Olson all the best as he enters retirement. I view tonight not as a celebration of his retirement, but as an acknowledgement of it. The celebration will come by TK later, and I really appreciate that chance that he's going to have to relax. I have a lot of questions to ask TK, and I'm never going to get to ask him. I don't know what TK stands for. I don't know why he's the way he is. I can't figure out much of his messages and his sense of humor. But I have certainly valued the time that we've spent together. I've been at Manchester College now 7.5 years, and TK was at my inauguration. It was important to me then that he show support for the college, and it's important to me now. And I think it's a remarkable job that he's done. Our college is immeasurably better because of what TK has done. And TK, if you think I'm talking about you in the third person, you're right, but let me offer you personal congratulations, best wishes, and thank you very, very much.
Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, it is very difficult to do the kind of honor that should be done to TK Olson. But I must say that I count him as a genuine friend, and I have always been impressed by the breadth and depth of his intellect and his ability to take very arcane and difficult issues and produce concrete and clear examples and reasons for why we should or should not do something. TK, you're a great guy, and we're going to really miss you here in Indiana.
Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, TK, I would just like to congratulate you on your retirement and know that you will be greatly missed. As I said before, I think I will miss mostly your very long and very interesting memos. They always added a lot of interest to whatever the topic was. So enjoy your retirement, enjoy living out west or wherever you end up going, and do think about us back here in Indiana, and come and see us sometime. Take care. God bless.
Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, I would like to give a one-word representation of TK. Actually, it's not one word. It would be inappropriate for me to say one word about TK because he doesn't know how to do one words. So I will say two words. He's passionate and he's a servant. Maybe I should say three words. And he's a Westerner. And who knows what a Westerner is, but TK is one, and he feels very passionate about that, and he feels very passionate about serving, and he's very passionate about his family. So we are very happy to celebrate TK's change of life, and we're going to miss him. We're going to miss you, TK. We're going to miss you, Joyce, and the family. So take care, and please remember the good times that we've had, and we wish you well in your new life.
Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, TK, I just wanted to say what a pleasure it's been working with you over the years. You've been great for this state. You've been great for our institutions. You've stood up when we needed someone to stand up with the state legislature. You've done a great job on fundraising, and you've really left our institutions much stronger for your participation. I know it's unusual for me to be this serious, but I really did want to make sure you understood just how much we appreciate what you've done. Thanks, good friend, and have a great retirement.
Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, TK Olson, I want you to know what a significant difference you have made in higher education in Indiana, and how deeply grateful we are for all of your hard work and efforts. In fact, I'll bet there are moms and dads and grandmothers and grandfathers and guardians of over 1,000 students who you may not know personally, but they know you and the impact you've had on their lives. And we're deeply grateful for you and for your wife for sharing you with us. And may you enjoy her company now in the years to come. Our best wishes. Godspeed.
Well, unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, I've been asked to say a few words to you, TK. Well, what can I say? I'm finishing my 8th year. When I first came, you were one of the first people to visit me, to treat me as an equal, and I really appreciated that. We had some of the challenges with one of the foundations in Indiana. You gave me some advice. We weren't quite as successful, but I think we helped establish some credibility with them. And in the next couple of weeks, I have a meeting, and something might just come of that. You've always understood what our mission was. That's been important not only to me as a president, but also to the students that we're trying to serve. As you've mentioned on many occasions, there are 31 independent institutions, all different and unique, but also similar in that we're trying to do the best we can to give students a choice and an opportunity at a higher education, for a higher education in Indiana. For all of your efforts on behalf of my students, I want to thank you and wish you the very best. Again, thanks very much, TK, for your support and for your encouragement. Godspeed and good luck.
Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, it's a pleasure to offer a few comments. Everything I learned about communication, I learned from TK. It was actually in Sigafus. I think Clyde and Mary Jane taught me quite a bit that they had learned from you, and although it's not immediately self-evident, I learned a lot. I had a lot of fun, and I'm practicing daily the things you taught me. TK and Joyce, I wish you well. Thanks, and God bless.
TK, unaccustomed I am to public speaking, I just want to say congratulations on your retirement. You have been a good friend. You've been a good friend to independent higher education in the state of Indiana and in the country. And I thank you for the good work you've done. You really have moved Huntington College and the independent colleges forward in our visibility in the state, in our working with the state legislature, and you really have led us very well, and I am grateful for that and appreciate that so much. I think of several things when I think about you, TK. I think about your wonderful string ties. I've never seen such a marvelous collection of string ties, and you have very unique ones, and that is special and fun and makes you unique as well. But also, I've appreciated so much your memos. The famous TK memos have given us much information, but always give us a laugh as you beautifully use the English language and then talk about a variety of things in some very interesting ways. So that will be something that I will for sure remember you by. But I also remember the conversations that we've had and the good meetings we've had over these past several years. Remember when you came down to Huntington College and shared at one of our dinners, and I appreciated that so much. And then just your friendship. You have been a good friend, and I will certainly miss you. So congratulations, TK. I know you'll be busy over these next several years, and you'll use your tremendous skills and abilities to very good use. And I'm excited to see how God will use you in the days ahead. Thanks so much for everything.
It's an important occasion on this pre-Halloween evening as we celebrate the many things that TK Olson did for us. I'd also like to thank the Lilly Endowment and Ice Miller for sponsoring the event this evening. I think it added something special to our occasion. And it's my pleasure to introduce the Governor of Indiana, Frank O'Bannon.
Thank you, Thank you, Parker. And I think I'm supposed to say, unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, but it's a great honor for me to be here and give best wishes and thanks to TK and the work he's done in the state of Indiana, and to the independent colleges of the state. We couldn't be more thankful for the great work that you do, and certainly the innovation, the ways to make it very successful, ways to make sure that kids that want a top college education can come to your colleges and get that, and then support them all the way through. And certainly the support of Lilly Endowment's been very important in the college. Independent college opportunities here in the state of Indiana. But TK, if you would come ahead up, I just want to say a couple words about you. Yeah. Well, the governor of the state of Indiana has the opportunity to recognize outstanding people in the state, and to recognize TK is very special for me tonight when we think of his advocacy for people, young people going to college, his certainly support and push here in the state of Indiana to certainly raise and assure student assistance for our students, and then with some of his extra work of making sure that maybe we can keep some of that brain power right here in the state of Indiana, which is very important to all of us. And if we can continue to do our part in Indiana, the rest of us to make that even a bigger reality, that's very important. So it's your wise counsel and wisdom that I want to honor tonight, because I'd like to make a presentation of our highest award of Sagamore the Wabash, which is Sagamore means a great leader who is an advisory to the chief, and certainly with your wisdom and good counsel, you certainly have been a great chief to all of us here in Indiana. And so we wish you the best of luck, and I know that you're going to be with us a part of another year, and then go west and find other things to do and do with your family also. And we're honored to have your family with us here tonight, to have all these great leaders out here
to celebrate your great service here in the state of Indiana. So on behalf of all the people of the state of Indiana, I want to present you this Sagamore of the Wabash.
I want to thank the governor for this singular honor. It's been an extraordinary pleasure to serve with Frank over the last 6 years in his stewardship as governor, and really enjoyed that experience of working with the governor and his staff during this time as we've tried to redirect people's attention to first purposes, which sometimes gets confused. People think that it's always the institutions, but the institutions are not the purposes that we're here. It's the students we serve. This governor has been supportive of that principle. It's the bedrock of what we do as an association to make sure that students are well served, that need financial aid and are provided a quality education. I want to just thank you for coming, and I very much appreciate this honor. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. It's now you have an opportunity to find a suitable seat. There are only 2 tables that are reserved for TK and his family, and I don't know who else. I would like to thank the string quartet from Butler University. Thank you very much. So if you will, find a place that you're comfortable and people you're comfortable with, and we'll get going. My name is Parker Martin. I'm president of Manchester College. And when it fell on my watch to have this event happen, we looked around to find the toughest person that we could find to be Master of Ceremonies to keep things moving. And it was Reverend Boniface Harden, president of Martin University, and I would point out an alumnus of Manchester College. Boniface. It took an honorary degree to do it, and we're still looking for his alumni fund contribution, but...
Thanks, Parker. Well, my first duty here is to call on God to be present with us for this meal, and it's very nice, nice family. This is our family, the people who we all suffer the pain. And the only thing I don't have is I don't have a wife. But I have a lot of women that tell me what to do, so I guess I lost that battle. Well, here we go. In the name of Yahweh Allah, God Jesus, O Great Spirit, or whatever name we call upon our divinity to be present in such a wonderful time. We're gathered here this evening to acknowledge the time, the sacrifices that TK and Joyce made, that they spent with us in Indiana, serving the students, the presidents, the trustees, the learning institutions. We rejoice in his dedicated service and his passion for us, his family, for students. We ask a blessing upon him and his family and all of us who are here. We ask you, O Lord, to bless the food, its preparation, and above all, God bless the cook. Amen. I hope you had a good evening meal, and if there's anyone who hasn't finished, please feel free to sip your coffee or wine as need be. We are here tonight. It's kind of a mixed blessing because, I'm not sure about congratulations, and I think the program says tribute to. I think that's the best way. We get to know someone, and we think we get to know them. someone that's been with us for 10 years, just about a little over 10 years now. And we've probably didn't know a lot of things. A lot of things will come out. And, we know that TK has the bolo, and he does not like ties. And he has a passion for that. But I don't want to take away from anything. I do want to acknowledge some of our guests who are here. Tonight we have a lot of old-timers, the old lions, as we call us. Some of us are still hanging around in the business, so let's have all the presidents who are not, I wouldn't say functioning, but not in. That would include. Yeah. So let's have those of you for the sake of the rest of us, our good friends. Ben, we're going to see you later. But please stand, and Jay and Bill, and I saw Jeff. Where Jeff with us still? Okay, he may be back. But let's give them all a hand. We have two chancellors. They're still in the realm thereof. So Ben is special. He's doing something different. And we have some qualities that I learned about TK. I spent some time with him, and for instance, I didn't know that he planned on being an agronomist. You know what an agronomist is? Okay. That's a person who figures out what farming is all about. He was going to be a farmer till his family moved to the city. So now we got some place to put all the excuses we want to put, you know. But he's a farmer. That's wonderful, wonderful thing. And he's done a lot of things in his life. The thing that I learned most of all that he spent going to, after he got his degree, he went to London. He's a broadcaster in the House of Commons. And then from there he went to Canada, some broadcasting. And so I thought I knew this guy, but there's just so many qualities about him. And I'm going to let the people who come up tonight and share some of their thoughts. And if they don't say everything that I want to say, I'm going to fill it in. You know, they're all good. I don't have any negative things. We're not going to be negative. But it doesn't mean we can't be funny. Because TK is a very funny guy. He really is. But you got to hang in there with him till you know what his punchline is. Otherwise, you won't catch on. He doesn't tell you. He lets you figure it out. And I've been sitting with his family, and they're all very funny too. Just let's give a hand to the family. He's going to introduce them, we have something in common with his family, is that being a Negro Norwegian, they're Swedish, and you know the Swedes and the Norwegians didn't always appreciate each other. That's a very nice way of saying it. But it's amazing how just in a little moment like this, I knew about TK. I knew he had shared with me his ancestry, and we never talked the language, but we did talk about some things, about his family, beautiful family, wonderful family. So I'm going to call on the first person in the program. Jay Kessler is President Emeritus and Chancellor of Taylor University, who has some very nice things to say about TK.
Well, I wasn't quite sure we were supposed to say nice things, TK. I got a letter I got from Parker said, "This isn't a roast, however." And then he went on to say, we don't want him to get off scot-free. But anyway, being one of the old lions, and by the way, Lou, you're not standing with the old lions bothers me. You know, he's given up on. He was an old lion too. Yeah, long of tooth and beard. And but I think back about when I became a part of all this. We were ACI, and we used to have to give 6 days a year of our time to go calling. And they had ambassadors from the various colleges, and so we get hooked up with a board member or some soul who got conned into it, and we would go to different areas and call for 6 days on Indiana businesses and so on, and try to raise money for the association. And during those first years, things changed very greatly here in the state of Indiana. When we first started doing it, and I was thinking of the men who were presidents, we had, when I came, there were 5 presidents who had served in excess of 30 years each as presidents. It was a kind of an old boys club, and the whole state was that way. And we go calling, and we're always talking to the founder, president, CEO of the company, and he could make the decisions. He was fiercely loyal to Indiana. He believed in the private sector. And we told them how good the private sector was, and they proved their loyalty, and we tried to bring back a check. And then that whole generation changed. Sons who had been educated in other foreign states and whatever took over companies, and the companies got bought by people in Tehran and New York and whatever. And you'd go call on them, and they'd say, well, I'm sorry, I can't make this decision. You have to talk to the guy in New York. And so we go talk to the guy in New York, and he said, well, I'm in New York. You have to talk to the people in Indiana. And they'd run you back and forth, and you got tired on that one. And we discovered the climate had changed just tremendously in the state of Indiana. The owner, president, Hoosiers, Bill, you remember those days, I'm looking down there. And we were in a bit of a quandary, what to do. And we didn't really have a systems approach to the thing. We went on a national search, and after a lot of discussion, whatever, into the room walks a man with a string tie, the ubiquitous, always present string tie, with a quick draw tongue, and a steel trap brain, and a pen that wrote like Poor Richard's Almanac. I never got letters like I got. I would take them home and read them to Janie just for fun. And I thought, when these reach the legislature, these are going to do the job. You know, they were something. And we had just a truly unique person on our hands. And we wondered what he would do. And first of all, in fact, he told me this tonight, and I didn't ever realize. He said he didn't know much about the thing when he came. I thought he knew everything. I thought this is the smartest man I ever met. He was a tremendously quick study. He really figured Indiana out in a hurry. He developed a database, so we weren't just talking about sentiment and how good we were in the old oaken bucket and all that. He got us on a solid database. He developed a strategy. He put in motion a systems approach. And so I was thinking, you know, coming from the West with that string tie, I was thinking of that line, return with us now to those thrilling days of yesteryear. From out of the past come the thundering hoofbeats of the great horse Silver, the Lone Ranger. He was here. And yet tonight, because he's not really the Lone Ranger, he's actually Tonto. Now he's a Sagamore of the Wabash. It's good to have you. Good to have a Sagamore thinking these thoughts for us. TK, we love you. We appreciate very much what you've done for us. You've taught us all. You've been fiercely loyal to us all. You took the time to get to know us. You've been on our campuses. You honored us by asking us questions. Let us talk about ourselves. It's meant a lot. Joyce, thanks for coming to things when you didn't, I'm sure you didn't just look for things to do in evenings, and you'd show up at things. We appreciate this very, very much. We truly do. And I guess maybe as I've kind of thought about this last couple of days, TK, you represented the private sector, and we are the private sector, and to some, they think we're elite. But you've not been an elitist. You have been representing the private sector, but you're really the great egalitarian. No man has ever worried more about financial aid, and the kid that fell in the cracks getting the chance to get our kind of education. Think about it, guys, how much he's worked on that. and how wonderful that's been. And I wouldn't have been interested, neither would you, and I know this is true of you, Boniface, if we were just elite colleges. We're private, but we're not elite. We're trying to reach the kids. I remember, Bill, being in your shop that one day, we were standing on your porch and realized that the goal of Franklin College to provide an education for first-generation kids in the state of Indiana. You know, each of us have our uniqueness, and we have our place in the sun, and we have a purpose. And TK let us stay whole. I was glad of that. He didn't try to make us something we weren't, but he unified us together. And I think he helped us also build a good relationship with the publics. I've enjoyed the fact, I've shared notes with men in other states. I don't think there are a lot of states that have enjoyed the harmony that we've enjoyed between public and private sector. And I really am grateful that, TK, you've helped us with that. It's been a beautiful thing. And so I offer you this. And also, representing a college with a kind of a quaint background. The Methodists started our school in 1846. Then they gave up on it because DePaul got the money. And no, we were sister institutions, but they used to be called Indiana Asbury back in those early days. But we were religious Christian school, and I've seen TK carry his faith not on his sleeve, but in the essence of his person. He has impeccable character. What he says to you is what he'll say about you when you're not there. He hasn't had to have a long memory because he tells the truth. And I've just seen his faith come through in those integrity things. I think it's worked at the legislature. I think everybody who meets him knows that what you see is what you get. Right. You stick a fork in TK and it'll be the same wherever you stick it in. And that's a great thing. I was trying to think, yeah, try it. Go ahead, yeah, try it. Go ahead. I was trying to think about this thing. So I went to my favorite theologian, Garrison Keillor, for a statement, and with the September 11th thing and you retiring and thinking about us trying to remember how you kept your cool and did all those MacArthur-like things in the midst of pressures and so on, Keillor says this: "To know and to serve God, of course, is why we're here. A clear truth that, like the nose on your face, is near at hand and easily discernible, but can make you dizzy if you try to focus on it too hard. But a little faith will see you through. What else would do except faith in such a cynical, corrupt time? When the country goes temporarily to the dogs, cats must learn to be circumspect, walk on fences, sleep in trees, and have faith that all this woofing is not the last word." And thank you, TK, for helping us know from meeting to meeting that all that woofing wasn't the last word. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very nice. I think in looking at TK's life with us, one of the really remarkable things he's done is helped us with the public schools, the lobbying and all of that. And I think that one of the really big things that he's done is he's helped us with the cooperation of our dear friend Stan Jones. I don't think there's anybody that can really stand shoulder to shoulder any more than Stan and TK in dealing with the legislature, with their experience. Let's give a hand and welcome. Please stand up, please. Yeah. I talked with TK, and I was very persistent in coming up with one-word answers. Now, you know TK can't handle one-word answers, but his essence is he's pithy if you know. So I have some one-words. I'm not going to tell you all of them. The first one I got out of it. I said, "What makes you tick?" And he told me, he says, "I am a servant." He says, "Everywhere, every job I've ever had, I've always tried to be a servant." Now, that may be his ministerial background, but I think that's TK. He comes after you if you're out there, and he feels like Jay said, if it's not so, he'll come and he'll tell you so. And you may be uncomfortable about it, but that's okay. That's the way he has always been, and I'm sure that that's the way he always will be. So anyway, so we have one, he did give me that one word. It was painful, but I got it out of him. Now, there's another dear friend who's here tonight, and he wants to say something. And Ben Lance, he's one of the old Lions, and he's one of my mentors. And Ben, why don't you come on up and share with us some of your feelings about this guy.
I don't know, after what Jay said, I may have to rewrite all this. I didn't, TK, is that you? You know, he's talking about. This group's a lot better looking than it was when I was here. The old folks are looking good, and the new folks are looking better than we used to. So, but it's great to be here and to have the opportunity to participate in this evening. Little town, little village, really, in Vermont. Orville Purdy, not the community's greatest achiever, died. And at the appropriate point in the memorial service, the pastor paused and asked if anyone in the congregation had anything to say about Orville. And after a significant interim of silence, I'm tempted to say dead silence, and an old neighbor rose to his feet and said, well, if no one has anything to say about Orville, I have a few things I'd like to say about the Republican Party. Well, TK, I'm certain that it was not the mind of the planners of this event that they had anything against the Republican Party that prompted them to ask specific people to say some things about you at this time. Pondering the matter further, I was at least convinced that they were not worried about what people might say. So I tried to think of what else might be in their minds. And what I came up with, and I'm certain about it, is they thought if they opened the floor for comments about you, there would be more folks wanting to say good things about you than our time would allow, which I'm certain prompted their directive, and very clear directive to us, at least to me, to keep it short and not carry this thing on a long time. They had some nerve, by the way. They really did. It just really kind of numbed me to think that they had the nerve to say to me that I should keep anything short that I would say about TK when I had endured 7 years of his memos. 7 years of having tried to labor through those things, those tomes that just extended and extended. One of the reasons I retired early. Yeah, no doubt about it. One of the reasons I retired early was so I could spend time meditating and perusing those tomes to try to figure out what in the world he meant. I live in Bloomington. That means when I get stuck on these things, I can ask Miles Brand what he really thought. In fact, TK, I never, ever ceased to be amazed at your grasp of the issues in higher education and your ability to set forth strategy and find answers and to articulate where we really were. I think back, it's been a long time, it doesn't seem like it's been 10 years, but it has. And I think back at when you came to us, and we were not perhaps in disarray, but we were at a time when things were tightening and things were getting difficult, and frankly the state network was becoming better and better organized and a significant force to be reckoned with in the battle for respect, for consideration, and for funding. TK, you proved to be an able supporter of higher education in general, and very, very soon became a welcome partner to all those thinking persons concerned with higher education in Indiana. But your concern and efforts on the part of higher education generally never diminished and never disguised your primary commitment to our cause in independent, private higher education. TK, you have contributed mightily to making our needs, our contributions, and our distinctiveness known to the public and to the decision makers in Indiana. Your advocacy has helped us profoundly in the consideration of the distribution of state funding and attention. In short, TK, we are better because you walked and labored among us for this period in our lives. Those of us who have had the privilege of working with you have found in you a loyal friend, a colleague, helpful in any way you could be, and always interested in what was happening in our shops and in our lives. And we deeply appreciate what you have done for us. And we share a concern for you. As a matter of fact, I am concerned about you, personally. And in that concern, I have brought you a gift. Now, should the rare eventuality occur when you need to wear a real tie, I wasn't sure you had one. So I got you one. And now the IBJ notes that you cater to being different. And it's a little different. It's loud enough, you know. And finally, in the possibility that you have no notion whatsoever of how you tie a real tie. TK, this is a clip-on. And I give it to you, and I don't want to be stretching the old hymn that says, "Blessed be the tie that binds." But there'll be a binding tie between you and the people of Indiana for all our lives because of what you've done. Thank you very much.
Well said. Well done. Well done. One preacher to another. It's real. He's a preacher, you know. You're always about preachers. You know, one of the things about TK that we probably don't know, but till he was 51, he was legally blind. It's not known, but courage and bravery is always to be admired. And he had it removed, and so we're the beneficiaries of this great man that we are paying tribute to tonight. So I went after him with another word. TK, what makes you tick? He didn't use damn or anything, but it sounds bad. He sat straight up in his chair and he says, "Boniface, I'm a Westerner." He said, "This weather here in Indiana is cold and all that." He says, "Once a year I gotta go out west and smell some real air and get in the trees." And he says, "I looked at 7 hilltops with snow on them all my life." I never met a Westerner in my life, but I believed him. He was very passionate about that. You know, when you look, TK, and TK is a very passionate man. So when he came from Oregon, out yonder, got back, you know, he's a founding president, York University up in Canada. And he was in 1968, I think it was, 68. He left, he was there, and he found his way back to Oregon as the
head of all of education, and not just different parts, but all of it, and from little tots on up. And so we were in need of some help, and there was a search and screen committee. And one of those members was Alan Hara. Where are you at, Alan? Okay, come on up and share with us some of the great thoughts.
There is a story about this congregation in western Kansas, and the parishioners of the congregation were involved in a congregational meeting, and the purpose of the meeting was to discuss whether or not the congregation should buy a chandelier for its sanctuary. And the debate went on and on and on and on, and finally an elderly gentleman got up and said, "I'm agin it, and I'm agin it for 3 reasons. First of all, no one can spell it. Secondly, no one can play it. And third, what we really need is more light." As I sat on that search committee 10 plus years ago, I had spent numbers of years as president at Concordia University in St. Paul, Minnesota. It was my strong feelings that what we needed in this state was someone who could help us see the light. See the light in the sense that he or she could enable the private colleges of this state to make their case more helpfully. And in order to make that case more helpfully, I believe that we needed better data, and that we needed a way in which we could follow through on the statutes of the state of Indiana, namely that the Commission on Higher Education is to take seriously and to think about the well-being of the private colleges of this state. It seemed to me that if there was a failure in this state, the failure was that the private colleges were not doing our collective work, and that we were not able to make our case cogently and thoughtfully and helpfully, so that individuals who were in the process of developing policy would have useful information with which to work. I sincerely believe that rational people, when provided with accurate, helpful, clarifying information, will more frequently than not make better decisions. And so from my vantage point, as I sat on that committee, what I was looking for was someone in whom I could trust or believe that would provide us with that kind of leadership, who could interact helpfully with the governor's office, with the legislature, with the commission, and do it in such a way that it would be winsome and helpful and constructive and useful, so that the case for private higher education could be stated in a way that would at least make sure that we were not only at the table, but that while we were at the table, something significant was being said. And as I listened to the various nominees, the various candidates, it became very clear to me that TK was the man we ought to appoint to that position. And I recall saying to the rest of the presidents when we made the decision to appoint TK, that it was my conviction that TK would come into the state and hit the ground running. I use those precise words, and I believe that he had enough insight and direction from his prior experiences in Oregon to understand the political realities that we were facing, the fiscal realities we were facing, etc. And I was enthusiastic about TK's joining us, and I have remained enthusiastic about TK's service, because I really believe that he has served not only private higher education very effectively in the state, but I believe he's also served the state of Indiana very effectively. I sincerely believe that ultimately good public policy is public policy which has been developed carefully on the basis of good information, with ultimately the majority of the citizens being kept in mind and held at highest point. And I think that part of what has made TK so successful is that he has not only thought about the students and faculty and staff and administrations of the private institutions of the state, but he's also thought very seriously about the public students, faculty, staff, and administrations, and beyond that, to the entire environment in the state, whether it be the volunteer or the for-profit environment. So from my vantage point, TK has been a significant value and has added significant value to the state. And for that, we in the private college sector are not only very grateful, but I believe that the state of Indiana is also grateful. Thank you, TK.
Thanks, Alan. Very, very fine. We are moving along, and there are a lot of things we probably need to say. One of the things has been that he raised the level of the income for our students in Indiana, both public and private, and his program, the program that ICI and ICIF, I think when he came there was like $5 million rattling around in the coffers, and now it's up to $24 million. He's had a very good relationship with the Lilly Endowment. I think the endowment has respected his positions and his enthusiasm and his vision. And so the result is that we have a marker, we have a bar. And I think that's really one of the great things that we can remember, but most of all, his spirit. I am the youngest of the active old Lions. The oldest Lion is Jim Murray at Oakland City University, and he had a situation with his eyes, and I'm sure TK appreciates that. And he wanted to be here tonight, but he had to cancel out because of that. And then I have a very nice tribute from Sam, who's second, from Rose Holman. And let me just read the paragraph. He says, all of the publics which compose Rose Holman Institute of Technology are extremely grateful and very proud of the many contributions T.K. Olson has made to improving the quality of life for his fellow human beings. As a result of his leadership, the Independent Colleges of Indiana and the Independent Colleges of Indiana Foundation have become models for higher education, legislative relationships, and foundation. T.K. Olson has contributed not only to the Independent Colleges of Indiana, but also to higher education in general, and the state, and yes, the nation. It's a very nice comment coming from Sam at Rose Holman. As for the young Turk, me, I talked to the family. It's nothing like talking to the family. And I asked them about the one word. Family-oriented. There's a dash in there. Participant. He's a participant. Integrity. Teacher. How to be mature adults. That was what his family said about him. And I think they always tell the truth, you know. Family always tells the truth. But these are wonderful qualities that we honor in TK tonight. And we know that it's been said several times already. So in order to have the official tribute tonight, I'll call upon our President Chairman, Parker, to return to the podium.
It's my task to present something to TK on behalf of us, but I've been sitting down there listening to all this regional stuff go back and forth, and I grew up in New England, and it occurred to me that's why I have had trouble understanding TK on occasion. It's this Western-Eastern thing, and it reminds me of a story about the Texas rancher who essentially took a busman's holiday and drove around the country visiting different ranches and farms, and ends up finally in Vermont going down a country road and comes across the farmer standing by his mailbox. And he stops and he asks, is this your farm? And the farmer says, yup. And he says, well, how big is your farm? And he says, well, if you look up to that row of trees, to that stone wall, to that brook back to the road, that's my farm. And the Texas rancher, a man of the West, said, well, that's real nice, but I can get into my truck in the morning and start driving west, and by the end of the day, I still won't be at the end of my ranch. The Vermont farmer looked at him and said, yup, I had a truck like that once too. So I think I can understand a lot about TK. I now have to do about the tackiest thing you have ever seen at a retirement dinner. I am now going to unwrap TK's present because I have to read it, and it's not going to work like this. But I would ask if TK would come forward while I'm doing this. We will rewrap it for you if you'd like, TK. It's actually worse than this. It's actually worse than this because what I'm going to do is present a certificate that we will pass tomorrow if you're willing. So there are obviously two serious questions here. One is the unwrapping of the present, and the second is whether or not we want to go along with this. And since TK speaks next, we'll see how it goes. But I would like to read this, TK, because it's heartfelt, and we've identified each of the colleges that essentially you have served so well. Resolved. By the way, I do not have a copy of this, so I'm presenting this as a motion. Resolved, through their presidents, the 31 colleges and universities associated as the Independent Colleges of Indiana, Inc., offer tribute to T.K. Olson, Ph.D., ICI's president for 10 years. On the occasion of his retirement, we honor and thank him for his distinguished leadership and his many contributions to higher education in the state of Indiana. His success in enhancing access for Hoosier youth has been remarkable and important. We salute T.K. Olson for his political acumen, his dedication to the interests of our colleges and universities, his great energy, his distinctive approach and sense of humor, his capacity for persuasion, and his way with words that none of us will soon forget. T.K. has both our great respect and our deep appreciation. Approved by the members of the association in Indianapolis this 31st day of October 2001. TK. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Parker. Just happened to have brought something with me. Some of those words. I want to thank you all for coming tonight. It's a very special occasion for me and for my family. If you indulge me for a moment, I'd like to introduce my family. You all know the person who is not only the strong right arm, but the person who is really the focus of much of my life. I've often told others that I am the most married man I know, and the reason is because of the lady that was sitting next to me tonight at the table, my wife Joyce. Next to her is my oldest son, Sven. Sven lives in Tucson. He's married and has 2 children. Next to him is our oldest daughter, Kirsten. Kirsten is from Salem, Oregon. She has 5 children and her husband. Sven is an Apple salesman for K-12 schools in Arizona. Is the person responsible for all the K-12 sales for Apple and there. And Kirsten is a lifelong devoted person of working with people who are mentally handicapped. She started volunteering at the age of 14, and when she completed her college work, she went immediately into working with the mentally handicapped and has done it all her adult life. Next to her is our youngest daughter. Kari is manager of a children's furniture store in Atlanta, Georgia. She has lots of stories to tell about being third born and all. You know, you've had a boy, you had a girl, and then who cares from then on, is her theories. All her justifications for life is because she's third born. These children are very much the delight of our lives. We're sorry that our 4th child could not be here tonight. He is from Toronto. His boss intervened and said he couldn't come because he had to engage in his work there. This is the first time I think we figured out in 9 years that these 3 children of ours have been together in the same room. And so this is a very special night for us. There's an incredible flood of memories stimulated by tonight. I was interested that Parker was the one that was selected as our chairman and for this year, and was giving me this lovely plaque tonight. I know some of you may not know that Parker spends a portion of every year in Maine. It's sort of harking back to his New England roots. Parker's, again, you may not know some of these things, but Parker, in spite of the fact that he may not look incredibly nimble on his feet at times, is a very accomplished fisherman. But like some fishermen, as they get older, they sometimes look for, shall we say, easier ways of making the day's catch. And so Parker, in one of those famous rivers in the state of Maine, decided that he would build a fish trap in the river. Now, those of you, like my daughter and our son there, who have lived in Alaska, know all about fish traps. I mean, you put these barriers in the river and cause the fish to go a direction that they would not otherwise end up going, and you end up with a large collection of fish, and you gather them up, and it's grossly illegal, of course, but it's a very effective way of getting fish. And Parker said, you know, I'm getting, it takes so long to get the number of fish that you'd like, and besides, you know, you get extra ones, get a little extra food for the students at Manchester. So he built this fish trap in this river in Maine. I was very pleased with it because it was really paying off extraordinarily well. Well, one day he started out toward the fish trap, and he got there and discovered that there was a boat in the river, and there were a couple guys in the boat, and one of the guys saw him standing beside the river by the fish trap, and the man in the boat bellowed out at him, and it says, "Do you know who owns this fish trap?" And Parker was a little taken back, and before he could answer, the man said, "This is an illegal trap, and if I find the guy that has built this thing and taken care of it, I'm going to go to jail for 10 years. There's this deadly silence after he said this, and he turned to Parker again. He says, "Do you know who owns this fish trap?" And Parker drew himself up and said, "You know, before this, I thought I knew the answer to that question, but on reflection, I discover I have no idea who owns that fish trap." So there are moments like this when I'm not absolutely sure that I have any idea what I'm going to say, but I will give it a crack. And before I get too far down on the trips about where we've been and where we might be and some other comments to make, I would like to invite up to the podium a former member of the staff of ICI, Dan Hinkle. And Dan and I are going to, as they say, do a number for you. Yes, well, good luck, mate. Yes. There you go. Are you ready? This is one of those entirely spontaneous activities that I put together here. In olden days, a private college was seen as a seat of knowledge. How heaven knows, anything goes. Good presidents who once were scholars now shamelessly shill for dollars, and heaven knows, anything goes. The schools that were the best today were best yesterday, and the rest today passed the test today, and the press today is having less to say about anything it knows. And though I'm just your humble servant, I try to be most observant, and I propose anything goes. When Olson sends his famous faxes, the president soon relaxes because he knows anything goes. The folks at the endowment certainly know when the schools are hurting. He tells them so. Anything goes. And things were sure and rough at times. I was gruff at times and bad enough at times of this stuff at times. But the rest of times it was the best of times. I'm grateful to my toes. And though I soon will be a goner, to serve you has been an honor, and heaven knows anything goes. Very nice. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Ah, it's fun tonight. Yes. Thank you, Daniel. You know, each of the speakers tonight has played a significant role in my life, as many other of the people in this room. And I'm very grateful for that. There is a tendency I have decidedly noted in the last month or so, as people have come by and called, and the remarks tonight of people tend to remember what they know of you now. They think of T.K. Olson as the person who is, you know, the one-stop shopping center for everything you wanted to know, whether you wanted to know it or not, about higher ed, etc. But I very vividly remember what I was like when I first arrived here in 1991. I'd never been to Indiana in my life before the occasion of the interview that Alan was referencing in his remarks. Knew nothing about the state whatsoever. Arrived, and I think it's fair and accurate to describe me as dumb as a cob when I arrived here about Indiana. And I remember thinking that because I had served 4 governors and their cabinets in Oregon and had been the chief educational advisor for all of the 2 houses of the legislature in Oregon for so long, I thought I knew, you know, a fair amount about how the political process worked and how legislators worked, etc. Walked into my first committee hearing, the House Education Committee, and first of all, I discovered that the committee met up in the front of the room around the little table. Half of them had their backs to the audience. And there is no simple thing like amplification. I mean, that's apparently a foreign kind of concept to the Indiana legislators' committees. And so they mumbled to each other about what was going on, and if you were sitting anywhere toward the back of the room, you had no clue what they were talking about. And I thought, that's strange. But I was prepared to deal with a bill that was up, and then they called this bill up, and some chap popped up from the audience, and turned out he was a House member, not on the committee, that was sponsoring the bill, and he got up and talked about the bill and sat down, and then the chairman said, does anyone want to talk in favor of the bill? Somebody stood up and chatted away, and anyone want to speak against the bill? Well, nobody said anything. And then he turned to the committee members, and they were about to vote on this bill, and I was sitting there totally flummoxed by this because I didn't know whether I was in favor or against the bill because I didn't understand the bill very well, and there hadn't been that much of an explanation of it, but it was obvious that there were some built-in problems with the measure. There were some sort of conflicts that were built into it, but I just needed some clarification. So as they were about to vote, my hand shot up like mad, and I gave the theatrical harumph, and the chairman, a little poleaxed by this strange behavior by someone who obviously wasn't following the rules, stopped and gave me this steely stare and wanted to know why I was interrupting the committee about to take a vote on this measure. I had no concept that they were actually going to vote this bill out on the spot. And so I said, well, I don't know whether I'm supposed to speak in favor or against because I don't know enough about the bill, but is it all right to ask a question of the sponsor of the bill? And the chairman apparently took pity on what was obviously a creature from another planet and said, well, all right, but make it quick. So I asked the carrier of the bill about some feature of the bill, and it was obvious that he didn't have a clue at all about the consequences of his measure. It was, he thought it was generally a good thing to do what he was proposing, had no clue about the consequences of it. And so I pointed out, I was, I guess, dumb enough to point that out to him in the public meeting, which gave you some hint about my level of sophistication about how to handle these things. And so there was a bit of an embarrassment, and there was a harumphing and hawing among the committee. And I said, well, seeing as obviously there doesn't seem to be much understanding about the consequences of this bill, perhaps you might like to postpone taking any action on it. Not the thing to actually tell a chairman of a committee who was just asked to have the motion voted on by his own members. And so, but he was a little flummoxed by the fact that it was now sort of self-evident to everybody that there was a problem with the measure. And so he said, we're going to report the bill out from the committee, but maybe I could sort this thing out later on with them. And that's what they did. So they deliberately reported out a bill that was dreadful, but they figured that maybe we could figure out some way to take care of it later on. That was my introductory opening legislative session in Indiana, and I thought, this is going to be a long, long, long session if things are like this. Hopefully things got a little better as we went along, but I remember so vividly going home to my wife those first few weeks and thinking, I don't know anything about the schools. I don't know anything about how this political process and this strange political culture seemed to work in this state, which is so different than Oregon. This is going to be a long learning curve, friends. And in some ways it obviously still is, but we got better and became a little more experienced in what we were doing. When I came, the committee made very clear that as far as being president was concerned, the only thing I really had to worry about was SASE. Whatever else you want to do, that's fine, TK, but the whole thing really revolves around SASE funds. You get student financial aid dollars, you're in Fat City, and if you don't, you may be interested in pursuing alternative career options. I think I told the committee at the time that they hired me that while that was a perfectly legitimate idea, I thought that, frankly, they didn't have a clue how to run an association, and I wasn't about to tell them how to run a college, but I didn't think they ought to be telling me how to run an association, that we really needed to have a much broader range of services and efforts in order to accomplish the true objectives of an association if it was serious about being an association. I don't think they had a clue what I was talking about at the time, and I'm not sure I had much of a clue at the time. I just knew that we had to do something different and beyond just concentrating on student financial aid dollars, because if you concentrate on and provide services that are needed both to the membership and to broader constituencies, then it makes it easier to go with a case on student financial aid. And so first thing we did was hire Greg Fawcett over there on that table as the first new employee after I was hired. Greg became our research director, and as was said by Alan, we concentrated in that first 3 years on trying to develop an evidential base that would carry our case more strongly to the Commission for Higher Education and to the legislature and to the institutions themselves, so that they would understand better who we are and what we were in contrast, both to the publics and how we compared to other states. Then we hired Dan as our public relations director, and we started concentrating on trying to get the message out both effectively to ourselves about what other institutions were doing. One of the things that we can do as an office and do it effectively is to be a broker. We broker information. We try and identify best practices and share that among the institutions at a whole multitude of levels. The academic officers, the finance officers, the physical plant directors, the student affairs people, student financial aid officers. We try and identify best practices and make sure that other institutional personnel on the appropriate level know what's going on elsewhere. And we have no shame about borrowing other people's ideas and adapting to our institutions, both within Indiana and from other states. One of my functions was to go out and try and mine every good idea I could find in another state, to bring them back here and test it and see if it could be applied to our good effect. Then we decided in the mid-1990s to formally take over the foundation, which had been a separate entity up to that point, so that we could more effectively speak with one voice. And I think that has worked well. And then also about that same time, we began expanding our involvement in grants. I recall early in the 90s being called in by the then president, John Muntz of the Lilly Endowment. Walked in the office and he said, first of all, I want you to understand that this is not a time for you to be anticipating and salivating over money coming into your pockets. There's no money to give right now. This was the time, you may recall, when the Lilly Endowment value per stock, the Lilly pharmaceutical value per stock had gone from something like $82 to $47. And they were cutting back, not adding on. But he said, I want to talk to you and mine your ideas and share with you my ideas about higher education in Indiana. Because at some point, the endowment's going to have more dollars, and we want to be in a position to be able to respond. So let's talk about our mutual ideas and prospects for higher education and objectives that we have. We spent a considerable amount of time in that talk, and it was the first of several involvements with the staff at the endowment. I've worked with 3 education vice presidents. Bill Bonifield was the first vice president that I worked with, and then Ralph Lundgren is here tonight as another one, and Sarah Cobb is here tonight as a third. I've tried to work with each one of those vice presidents in terms of accurately portraying as best as I could where we stood, what our problems were, what our triumphs were, something of the extraordinary eclectic nature of who we are. One of the reasons that I come to the office every day with the level of enthusiasm and spirit that I do is because it is such an exciting group of institutions to work with. I never have to apologize for any of my schools. That is not universally true, may I say, across higher education. But it's been a privilege to get to know each one of the 31 schools and to find out their heritage and to find out their objectives and their unique missions and the resources that they have and the resource hopes that they have, and to be able to share that with the people at the endowment and with donors and with legislators. I have found in my years of service that if you don't try to oversell, but try to present things as they are, so that they understand that you have problems as well as the marvelous things that we do, it adds to their willingness to listen to you at other times. If you're just a shill for whatever the best is, you tend to get categorized pretty closely, clearly. But if you're candid and yet clearly believe in what you're doing, then you tend to have access to people who make decisions. You tend to have them call you because they want to help you if they can. People like Senator Mills, who's with us tonight, who chaired for so long the Budget Committee of the Senate. Senator Mills and I used to have breakfasts all the time at the Columbia Club, and we'd sit down and let down our hair and talk about what was going on in higher education. Those kind of talks with people at the endowment and with legislatures and people in the governor's office and with Stan and his predecessor, Clyde Ingle, and with the various members of Stan and Clyde's commission, all are geared to not to convince people, frankly, that the independent sector is without blemish or the greatest thing that's been invented since sliced bread. Our pitch is that Indiana is blessed with marvelous public and private institutions, that education is a continuum from K through post-secondary graduate work, that they're all interrelated, that the independent sector or higher education cannot stand apart from the other elements of higher education. We turn out the teachers. We are the ones that are responsible for the continuing education of existing teachers. We're the ones that establish the admission requirements for our own institutions. We're the ones that tell students in our own institutions whether the work that they do is competent or incompetent, and they're the products of those institutions that we've trained the teachers for. It is insane for us to stand on one side and to argue that somehow we have no responsibility for what goes on in K-12. We cannot possibly handle all of the hundreds of thousands of students that want to take advantage of higher education in the state. So we have to work with the public institutions. It's also true to say that the public institutions, by definition, will always have as their highest priority in terms of how the political process works their state appropriations, both for operations and for capital. Someone has to have as their highest priority the concerns for the student financial aid dollars for needy students. And over the years, we've been able to develop a kind of relationship that where there is legitimate public institution need for operational and capital dollars, I have been willing on your behalf to go and testify on behalf of legitimate need for the public institutions, raising eyebrows in some quarters all the way back to the back of the head, that I was willing to do so. The other side of that coin is that in essence they have delegated to us the responsibility for being the primary advocates along with the Commission for Higher Education and whoever, both Stan and his staff and his predecessor, Clyde and his staff, in behalf of the student financial aid, so that Dennis Oberfeld, who was with us tonight as the Deputy Director of SASE, and the SASE people could have enough resources to meet the needs of low-income students to take advantage of wherever they wanted to go to school that would match up to their needs. And that kind of relationship between the publics and the privates and how we could help each other achieve legitimate public educational and independent educational objectives has worked well in this state. It's just pragmatic. I don't think I deserve any great enormous cubits of stature because I did that. It's just common sense that that's how you can be most effective in trying to reach a complex set of public policy objectives within the resources that are available, and to remind people that it doesn't matter whether it's a public or private entity. Our object is to make sure that students who can benefit from higher education have an opportunity of doing so, and it's up to the student to be able to make that choice, and wise public policy in the state of Indiana allows students to make that choice. Many other states, they don't have that option. They don't provide either any student financial aid to students in the private sector, or if they do provide, it's not very much money. In this state, we are one of the top 3 states in the nation that provide student financial aid on a need-based basis to students who have the choice of deciding where they want to go to college. And I was pleased to play some role in that. I was also pleased to be able to help in trying to ensure that K-12 and the publics participated in this through the various Lilly grants that we had. Our object there is primarily to make sure that students come better prepared, better informed, and that the various people at the high school level know more about us and know more about the options and the programs that we have to offer than they would have in the absence of those programs. And I want to thank very much personally the role that Ralph and that Sarah and Alan have played in that, and they're here tonight, and I would appreciate it a little bit, and I hope you would too, if you would acknowledge the contributions that they've had by perhaps giving a moment of applause to them. It would be inappropriate for me not to reference my staff over these years. Because, as everyone in this room knows, the people at the top get disproportionate amount of attention because they're the ones that are the spokespersons for the entity that they serve, whether it's the presidents of institutions or whether it's the presidents of an association. I've been very well served by the staff that has been with us. They're here tonight, and it's my privilege to ask them to stand and to receive your acknowledgement of their services. Would you please stand? Next to last, I just want to pass on to you some comments about where we're going personally. These 10 years have been marvelous years. I calculated, when Boniface was giving me his grilling the other day in the office, trying to get me to boil things down into one word, which you all know is just ludicrous, trying to get me to put things down into one word. I've had 8 jobs since I left college, and I can honestly say, candidly say, that each one of those jobs has been a delight. I learned something from every job I ever had, which is one of the first criteria that I have for every job. Can I learn something from this which I will hold in profit? And this job has certainly been perhaps the pinnacle of all of those other jobs that I've had, although each one has been incredibly satisfying. As we've gone through the jobs of working for Northwest Airlines, for working in London for a television production company, for teaching at Montana State University at one of the fine Western land-grant institutions, for working in the U.S. Senate for several years as a legislative assistant to a U.S. senator, working for the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation as a public affairs commentator, for being on the faculty and chairman of the department and then ultimately academic officer of York University, and it was extraordinarily exciting. I mean, you would have no reason to know this, although David might from his interest from Canada. In the period between 1960 and 1974, Canada expanded the number of students involved in post-secondary education 10 times. 10 times in 14 years was that kind of growth. You know, it's unbelievable that a nation would have made that kind of commitment. And to be a part of that, of creating an institution from bare ground in the middle of nowhere in North Toronto, and to transform it into a 40,000 plus student body of a major research institution in America was an exciting part of my life for 14 years. I'm sorry, 9 years. And then I went to Oregon and was able to serve there as commissioner, where I had responsibility for all of education. And that clearly influenced what I have done here and whatever vision I have tried to bring to you here. While the political and social cultures of Oregon and Indiana are substantially different, I was so influenced by the fact that in Oregon I had 330 school districts when I went there that I was responsible for. All of the public four-year institutions, all of the 13 community colleges, and all of the 17 private colleges. And you can't possibly just dwell on one sector in that kind of position, you end up getting everybody mad at you because everyone knows the kind of sacrifices and the accommodations you've had to make as you've gone along to bring your proposals forward to my board. You all, as an advocate of an institution or a sector, you knew what accommodations you had made already, and it was kind of discouraging to come to my entity sometimes and have me or one of my board members suggest to them that what they had proposed was not really in the public interest. And when they knew, quote, to their soul that it, quote, was, at least by their definition. So I remember vividly when I left Oregon, the university, the newspaper in Eugene wrote an editorial when I left the job as commissioner, and they said, eyes were never drier than at the University of Oregon today when Olson left. And that's representative of the kind of job that Stan and I had. You can never satisfy the good folks, no matter who it is, all of the time. But the one thing that you constantly keep in your sight is what's in the public interest. And naturally, you define the public interest, and that's an arguable issue. But it is also true that no one else, when you have those kind of positions, can possibly have the perspective that you do. You're the only person in a state and your staff that's responsible for looking at the totality of the picture and then trying to figure out what's in the total public interest of an educational policy as opposed to what is in the best interest of my school or my sector. And I clearly was influenced by that when I came to you. I've tried to follow that because I think it's in the interest of this state. It is also, I think, in the interest of the independent sector, and I hope that I have served you with some integrity and skill in that fashion. And then lastly, I cannot let this occasion pass without saying again how marvelous it has been to be supported, not only by you good folks over these 10 years, but by my wife. Thank you.
Very nice.
Sit down. Thanks very much, TK. Sometimes it's very hard to always say thank you, but I think that you've just got to thank you, and we can never really truly show that appreciation because you've given your life and put up with a lot of stuff from all of us, and we wish you well and wish your family well. So we're not gonna, it's not a funeral, this is a happiness thing, wishing you well, and we just say it's a so long type of thing, and we'll see you later on. And so we call upon our divine supreme being to be with you, and to Joyce, Sven, Kirsten, and dear third person. And we know, and also the son who's not here, Soren, and Kari, I know your name, okay. But I think we ask a blessing on all of you because you do it together. It's a very close family. They love each other and they feel free with each other. So We ask you, O God, to bless them, that whatever the happiness is that is sought, that it be to the fullness, and that God's angels watch over you and look after you, and that all the people, TK, that you've helped, they don't know your name, but we know your name, and that we should never forget this man and his family. And like some of us, people will forget us, but that doesn't mean that we have to continue to do that. But someone who touched all of our lives, and we ask you, dear God, to take care of them and to bless all of us and have a safe journey home in the Martin family. And having said all this, I think it's time to say amen. Amen. Come on, y'all. You say amen. Amen. Thank you.